a few weeks ago, I got a strange number called me. On the other side of the line was a lady. She introduced herself. She was very formal. Introduced the company that she was calling me from. And then she asked me, "Is this Dennis?" And I said, "Yes." Then she said, "I'm calling you to formally invite you for interviews tomorrow for the position of wealth consultant." And it's true. It's not a joke. So, so the first thing I asked was, "Is this a prank or?" Because one, I don't qualify to be a wealth consultant. I don't qualify to be a consultant of anything though. Yet, that's just to show us that qualifications are very important in anything that you're going to do, whether in public office, a job. There's supposed to be qualifications. They're meant to show us that what we're doing is not a game; it's serious business. But even in games, there are qualifications, right? Manchester United is not going to play the UEFA Champions League because they're not qualified. There are qualifications even in games. So, first of all, to establish the system of voting, it was the system of elections was brought about in the 1600s by two gentlemen, primarily Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. So they came up with what they called the social contract theory. This is a hypothetical agreement among individuals through which they form a state in order to escape the disorder and chaos of the state of nature. State of nature is a society where there is a stateless society where there are no rulers. So in a state of nature, people tend to do whatever it is that pleases them. So if what pleases me is not pleasing to my neighbor, there's no order. So therefore, there's a need for this ruler who tells us what we ought and ought not to do. So it's built on two foundations, which political authority comes in a sense from below. So the people elect who they want. So it's from below. We elect you to lead us in a sense. So we elect you because actually we're electing us by electing you. So the state acts as an emperor or neutral referee in the society. I'll look at this a bit further. So currently in Zambia, for someone to stand as president, or they're supposed to have the certain qualification, and they're as follows. One, they're supposed to be citizens by birth and descent. Two, must be ordinarily residents of Zambia, should be at least 35 years of age, should be registered voters, should have at least a grade 12 certificate or something of its equivalence. They're supposed to declare their public assets, and they're supposed to be supported by 1,000 people. That's like 100 people from each province. But there are some things that can disqualify them from standing. One, if they are in public office. Two, if they have a double citizenship. Three, if they are holding any constitutional office, which is equivalent of public office. If they are a judge, or if they were removed from a certain office because of gross misconduct, or if they are bankrupt, if they are broke, or if they were serving in a sentence or a prison. For MPs though, it's almost the same, except that for them the age is 21 years. But we've seen that there's been a change in terms of qualifications, particularly for the presidents over the years. So the very first constitution in 1964 by the UNIP government, there were like 3 qualifications. One, you're supposed to be at the age of 30. Two, you're supposed to be a citizen. And 3, you're supposed to be a registered voter. That's it. No English, no anything. That's it. And that changed as we that began to change as we came closer to where we are now. The last constitution which we have is the 2016 constitution, but the constitution after that slightly changed. So the reasons why some of the parts of the constitution have been changing, I think it is because some parts of it are politicized. Give an example. When Chiluba came into power, he wanted to make sure that he does not he not give a chance to Kenneth Kaunda to stand. Therefore, he changes the constitution to say um, you're supposed to have parents that are Zambian for you to qualify as a citizen or for you to qualify as a president, or you're supposed to be actually Zambian, born in Zambia. So that disqualified some of the people. So some of these rules were changed because there was a political agenda to it, I would say. The part where people are supposed to have grade 12 certificates was changed recently by Dr. Lung. So, an example of the constitution that we had before the most recent amended one, the qualifications were as follows. For office of president, he's supposed to be a citizen. Both parents are supposed to be Zambian by birth and descent. He must have been in Zambia for the last, should be 35 years, must have been in Zambia for the last 2 decades. Those are the only qualifications. No English, no nothing. For MPs, he was supposed to at least speak English. So also for president, but nothing to do with academic qualifications. But how do we look at this from a biblical point of view? How do we critique this? Particularly for the qualifications of president. Firstly, that they are supposed to be citizens by birth and descent. The issue of citizenship is a very critical issue. It was also in the Old Testament. We see in Moses had issues with the children of Israel because he was more like a foreigner to them. He grew up in the house of Pharaoh. Then he came to them. He basically didn't know anything about their troubles. But we also see the issue, the aspect of citizenship when we are called to God. So we are citizens of His kingdom in that sense. So citizenship is an important aspect of one to be qualified as a ruler because you cannot have a foreigner rule over you. The second point is he is supposed to be ordinary resident of Zambia, which means before I stand as president, I was supposed to at least have lived in Zambia over the last few years, which I don't see is necessary. If I'm a citizen of Zambia and I went to the UK for school or anything like that, I do not qualify to come and stand as president unless I've lived in Zambia for the last 2 decades or something, which does not really add up. Why? How does that disqualify me? Thirdly, they're supposed to be of age 35 and above. The assumption is that, or maybe what is implied here is the issue of maturity, which we all agree we need a president who is of sound mind. But age does not always equal maturity. There are people that we've seen that are old, but they are young. For example, I won't mention this one. There are members of parliament that have been called for interviews, asked proper questions that are at the heart of this country, and the only thing they can say is, well, Liverpool lapped. So there's an aspect, there's a need to see, is this person mature despite their age? They are qualified, yes, by age, but are they mature? So age does not always equal maturity, but there are also examples in the Bible of kings and rulers who ruled at a very young age. King Solomon was young when he ruled, but the youngest king was, pardon the pronunciation, this is a Hebrew name, Joashash. Never heard of him? You did grand narrative. In 2 Kings 11, there's a story of this young man. So what happened was that there was a massacre. So the current king then was killed, and along with the descendants. So there's this woman who hit this boy. The boy was only 7 years old when he became a king, and the Bible says he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. So he was a good king. In other words, another king. 10 chapters after that was Josiah. We all remember Josiah. Josiah ruled from the age of 8. Age of 8, he became a king, and he was the one who built the temple. He found what they called the Book of the Law, which was believed to be the Book of Deuteronomy, I think. So age is does not always equal maturity or wisdom. Not always. It is not to say that we should have children no, but that we should have mature people. The third one is this. I think it's drawn from it. Should be a registered voter, so you should be able to take part in elections, and should be, for you to be a registered voter, you need to be of the age of 18. The fourth one is about academic qualifications, which also does not always equal intelligence, because there are some people who are educated, but we can't see the fruit of their education, both here and out there. You give an example of some of the current president of the US's cabinet, very educated people, but they haven't done as much as we expected, because we know that they're educated and they've attained this much qualification. So you get what I mean, right? Yeah, so education does not always equal intelligence. And okay, if our aim is really education, if it's really, really education, but why put it at grade 12 level? If it's really education, why not say degree in political science, for example? So I don't see this, I don't see how this is relevant. There are people who had influence who didn't have a lot of education. For example, Christians in the first century, those guys were fishermen. I'm not calling everyone to be fishermen, but at least you get to understand that education does not always equal intelligence. The other one is must have paid taxes. Basically, one who qualifies to be president is supposed to be responsible. It shows a sense of responsibility. Jesus was asked about the question to do with tax, and he said, you give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, to God what belongs to God. Therefore, it means we need to pay our due to the government of the day. When you pay tax, it shows a sense of responsibility, in other words. So that's not a very bad one. He's supposed to declare his public assets. I have a question though. The opposition leader, Sean Tembo, says, he's been protesting that the president is supposed to declare his assets. Did it do it before the elections? Or he did it and he's supposed to do it again when he becomes president? Yeah, it's a question though. And a critic on what disqualifies them is supposed to, a person cannot stand as president if they hold a public office. A public office is any government office. I don't see how this disqualifies one from being a president when they hold public office, because don't you think they have a little more experience than just someone who comes from, I don't know, come from Kabushi constituency, for example. And the issue of dual citizenship, it shows I think it's a good one, because someone cannot come and stand as president when they have two citizenships, one from here and one from Malawi. You choose one. I know you just gave an example of this. I know you were talking about money when he said this. When he said you can't save two masters at one time, you choose one and throw away the other. But the principle remains that you choose one thing that you want to focus on. You can't save Malawi and Zambia at the same time. And the thing that disqualifies them if he's holding a constitutional office. Same thing as holding a public office. Holding a constitutional office includes offices like governor, attorney general, secretary to the state, all these public offices, judges, and everything like that. I think it gives me a little bit more of experience if I've been there to become a president rather than just coming out from somewhere. The other one was if the person was removed out of public office or out of office because of gross misconduct. Gross misconduct is an example of it would be like assaulting a co-worker, for example. But if you did it in the last 5 years, so if you did it in the last 6 years, no matter how intense it was, you can still come and stand for public office. But why 5 though? What's the magic with 5? Is it like what our parents used to do back in the day? Say you've done something wrong, go and think about what you've done. So are they thinking about what they've done in that 5 years? I don't know. But depending on how intense it was, I don't think they are supposed to be allowed to stand as presidents at all. If, for example, they assaulted someone, they have to wait for 5 years and then they'll stand again. So I think this is, and then the other one is when they are bankrupt or when they are broke. So it only shows that maybe certain offices are just for rich people. Yeah, but we're supposed to pay. You might ask the question, okay, so maybe the money that is paid is they pay so that it can help in the facilitation of elections and everything like that. What about the tax and everything? But I think there's just too much money for public office. How much does the president pay to stand as 90? 95,000. That's 5,000 away from 100. So, in conclusion, civil magistrates are divinely appointed by God, unlike what Thomas Hobbes and John Locke told us, that they are chosen by us. So when we choose the people, we are really choosing what we wanted for ourselves. But actually, what Romans 13 tells us is that they are divinely chosen by God. Even the baddest of the baddest leaders, yes, even PF, chosen by God. It could be that there's something that he wants us to learn from the bad leaders. It could be that it could be that there's something that he wants us to see also from the good ones. But all the leaders are divinely elected. In this, the Bible tells us the duties of the civil magistrate. It says they're supposed to punish good and encourage, and they're supposed to punish evil rather and encourage good. And that only would come from a heart that fears God. So I think even as we choose leaders, or even as we qualify people to stand as leaders, we're supposed to look at the very core. Are their principles in line with what God has said? They might not necessarily be Christians, but are their lines, are their principles in line with what the Bible teaches? Thank you.